Scientific and medical censorship is very, very strange. Because the truth is that if you have a good understanding of science, you can explain it to anyone. I've many times had discussions with patients or relatives who have specific ideas. And as long as you listen to them and you explain where you're coming from and you explain the science of what you're doing, very rarely will people have an issue. So, when doctors were being censored left, right, and center during the COVID pandemic, it stood out that something was very wrong. And in September 2024, I had interviewed Dr. Victor. He is a doctor in Malaysia, and the link to the full interview is in the description, so you can watch it from September. And it's relevant because he was charged in Malaysia for the crime of speaking out against COVID vaccines. Now, at the time, this is the newspaper report that has come out. Dr. Freed in charge of making offensive video about COVID-19 vaccine. And you can see here, Monday, April 7th, he was acquitted and discharged. He is the founder of the Sky Clinic, Dr. Roland Victor, on the charge of making and initiating the transmission of offensive videos about the COVID-19 vaccine. And essentially, the prosecution had failed to establish the case beyond reasonable doubt. How strange, you may think. Why would he have to go through that? And in truth, we're seeing similar issues with Dr. Shankara Shetty. He was due to be in court in March, but they delayed the case, I think, until about June. And it's remarkable how many people have been punished for speaking out. From my perspective, I am talking about these things because I understand the science. I am saying the point about autoimmunity, spike mediated autoimmunity. I've been saying it since 2020, published on it, and I feel comfortable. Anybody, no matter what their background, they could be the top professor in the world. I would sit down with them and I would explain to them the science about COVID because I think I have a good understanding of that science. And if you don't understand autoimmunity, nothing will make sense. But once you do, every single angle about what has happened, what will happen, and what is happening makes perfect sense. So, censorship is unnecessary if you understand the science. Let's hear what Dr. Victor had to say today, and this is from Aussie 17, which is a news channel, with regards to what he had to say today about him getting off this charge. Here is what he said.
Okay, a big victory for science and medicine. Dr. Roland here from the KL Sky Clinic, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and this goes out to the world that after 4 years of debating scientific evidence in court in Malaysia, we finally won our case. And this is a big victory for people around the world, including Malaysians who were not given the right information, medical information, freedom of information during the whole process of the vaccination process. So the court has upheld. I am free. I'm a free man after 4 years being on trial. We managed to put all the scientific evidence, all the documents in court, and today the court has upheld the decision that I am free. So keep the fight going on. Scientific evidence has to be free. Doctors should be allowed to discuss about medical information in public, whether it is right or wrong. It is right. Medicine is sometimes dangerous and crucial, but public, whoever receives any form of medication or therapy, has to know the benefit and also the risk. So the benefit, whether it's upheld, or the risk, whether it's little or bad, must be told to the public. Shouting out again, Dr. Roland here from Malaysia. Thank you so much for all the support, especially to all the Malaysian public who has prayed for this success, and this success is for you.
Yes, and he's right that success is for you. Because at the end of the day, I think a few things have come clear when we reflect on the pandemic. I think it is starting to be clearer that many people who have said that their intention is to protect the interests of the public have not behaved in a way that indicates that they are actually protecting the interest of the public. When people were told what to do in the pandemic, and as far as I'm concerned, the worst part that I had seen from the pandemic was the fact that after people were coerced, were encouraged, were forced, mandated to take the COVID vaccines, those who were injured were ignored. I think that's unforgivable. I think that anyone who was in leadership at that time, who was silent, and who turned a blind eye to real injuries that people were having and suffering from, should never be put in that kind of position again. That's just my personal opinion, because it indicates that their true allegiance was not really to the patients that they were there to serve. And we are at a time, a critical time in history, where you need to know who is acting for you. People who have taken the risk of speaking out, people have taken the position of trying to bring you science in the face of adversity. That's the reality. And what we need to now do is work out the implications of what has happened. Now, this is the other important part of this lesson. It's one thing to now have freedom to speak to some extent. One still has to be very careful, but it's a completely another thing to be able to find out the outcomes of what has happened. And for me, if it wasn't for the diligence of the Japanese in doing autopsies on people who had died or people who had complications, we would still be in the dark about some of the implications around spike protein and spike protein autoimmunity. So, my rule is anyone who is not supportive of doing further research, who is ignoring the fact that there could be harm. I'm not necessarily saying there is, just the mere possibility that people could be harmed for which you don't have full scientific understanding. Anyone who is silent on those issues is not necessarily someone who is looking out for your interest. That is the reality. That is the truth. That's how you check. Just see whether or not they really are interested in if things go wrong. It's kind of like if you prescribe something for a patient and they have an adverse effect and the doctor just ignores it. That's not medicine. We are always, or we should always be concerned. The same would apply for public health, for politics, for every other aspect of healthcare. We're coming to a time where we really need new direction, new thinking, new leadership, and new ways of protecting health for the population, because it's no longer good enough what we have seen during the pandemic. Censorship is one thing, but if through censorship and through a lack of scientific debate, people have been harmed, then those who were doing the censorship are fully accountable for the consequences of those actions. Those were some words by Lisa Myron, who highlighted from a legal point of view, this is the reality that we're facing at this time. So thank you again. Thank you to Dr. Roland Victor for standing up for medical freedom, the ability to challenge. Thank you for people like Dr. Shankara Shetty, who is standing up and still has to face his challenge in the near future. There are people like Dr. Matthew Shelton, who lost his license to practice in New Zealand for simply standing up for his patients. That's unacceptable. And the people who were involved still have their time to come, hopefully in the near future. Have a great evening.